All right, and we are live. Everybody, welcome to the Amfaw channel live chat number 16. I am Budget Bug Out, signed in as the Amfaw channel, and with me tonight is Ted Owens, as well as Jarhead6. I guess let's just go ahead and I guess we'll start off with the Bible verse first, and then we'll get into introductions. The Bible verse I have is Proverbs 10:16, which says, "The wages of the righteous is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death." So just kind of one of those little reminders that's in the Bible says, do good things because good things come to people who do good things. All right, so let's go ahead and do some introductions. Our guest hasn't arrived yet, and we'll introduce him when he comes here. But Ted, do you want to start off with talking about your channel a little bit?
Well, my channel is I have my own channel, but I primarily I'm one of the primary administrators on the Amfaw channel, and so I do not a lot of activity on mine. So I'm kind of hanging in here with Amfaw lately and doing all things Amfaw. So yeah, just me.
Awesome. And Jarhead6, I see you're probably talking to someone in the chat, I'm assuming.
Yeah, somebody's asking about Russia and the whole thing already.
Oh.
But I'm Jarhead6, and I run the Jarhead6 channel, and I do videos on just whatever comes to my mind, weapons, prepping, and a bunch of other stuff.
Very cool. And we'll one of the topics that I wanted to cover is a little bit about prepping as well. So my channel is Budget Bug Out. Talk a little bit about preparedness, but also my more popular videos are where I compose like a survival kit of some type, or a bug out bag of some type. So as some of you all know, I've started volunteering for the Red Cross. I'm still in the training phase, but as I'm coming across more and more information and just reading books and things about preparedness, I thought that they would kind of be a good idea. And after seeing Ted's recent video, which posted on the Amfaw channel, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk about preparedness and which things that we are honing in on because of our tendencies or our skills. So myself, I am big on getting a kit together, learning from what the Red Cross recommends for a kit, the different items that are in a kit. So let's talk about that first. So the different things that we're going to talk about is the kit, and then Ted was going to talk about what was it that you were wanting to cover, Ted? I know
just
that
kind of planning, plotting, and logistics. I see
right.
that David's trying to get in there. Maybe you could send him another link, fellas. He says he's having trouble getting in.
Okay.
You want me? I can send it.
Okay.
So
yeah, that'd be great.
Talking budget.
Yeah, and then Jarhead6 was going to cover a little bit about like security and home defense kind of stuff. But as far as the kit is concerned, I have a little form here. This is a little waterproof little checklist here that talks about what to put in a kit. It also talks about making a plan and being informed, kind of staying in tune with everything that's going around. But something that the Red Cross is always kind of harping on is having enough food and water, and having flashlights and first aid kit kind of stuff. What do you guys think about what would be good in a basic kind of kit, or if you have it in your kit already?
We live down here in Hurricane Alley, where it's, having that fallback kit is just kind of a way of life for us here. We I mean, that's just what we do. We got hurricane tracking maps where we know the storm's out 2 or 3 days in advance, and you're still going to have those unprepared individuals down here that will wait till the last minute and make a run on the stores. And that's why Uncle Ted's a prepper. That's why I do what I do, is because I got caught short in the days after Katrina and learned the hard way that um, you can't wait till the last minute. You have to have it now. And when we take a look at the current geopolitical climate, it's not easy to imagine a worst case scenario where that's all concerned. And better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's how I feel.
True. Yeah, those are very good points. I used to live in Florida for a good portion of my life, and my dad, while he was raising me, he was very prepared minded when it came to that kind of stuff. He one of the things it talks about in this thing is being informed. He had one of those little weather alert radios, which I have right there. But anytime that would go off, he'd be on the checking the news and stuff. He had one of those radio TVs too, where he was paying attention. But he always was stocking up on things and making sure that he was ready in case of a hurricane hit. And now that I've moved to the Midwest, it's changed from hurricane preparedness to the natural disaster that hits us is tornadoes. But one thing that I didn't think of is fires. I never really thought, like, whenever you think of prepping, you think of, well, you might think of doomsday preppers, like economic collapse or nuclear fallout or whatever. But the most common disaster that's going to hit you is a fire. I'm on, like I said, I'm on call now. I am taking different shifts for the Red Cross, and last month they told me this. It was the 23rd of last month. Not to mention, February only has 28 days anyways. But they said they had already responded to 20 fires. It's fires happen all the time, in metropolitan areas. I mean, they're always responding. Fire departments and first responders are always responding to fires. So that's one thing I need to do is, I always hear, oh, you need to waterproof things and stuff, and yes, that's important, especially if you're in hurricane areas. But I need to fireproof my stuff. I never really listened to my wife when she was like, we need to get this fireproof safe. You need to get that fireproof safe. And I'd look at the price. I'd look at the item, looking for the price. Like we always kind of do whenever our wife is saying, "Hey, you should buy this." Like, where is the price tag? But now I'm sort of like, maybe I should have been listening. I think Jarhead is still preoccupied doing this thing. But another thing to do. You were talking about making a plan, Ted. You were also saying you should meet up in certain places?
Well, I spend a lot of time on the road. My job has me out kind of moving around in different places, and we have rally points, and actually we have 2 or 3 different rally points. And the rally point don't have to be some X marks the spot place out in the woods. It could be a relative's house, a friend's house, the local shelter, wherever that's going to be. It's all different for different folks. But I know to check those spots if I'm in town. Now, we plan our route out. We know where we're going to go depending on the event. And if we were going to go, let's say, evacuate from a hurricane, we have some property about 300 miles north of here that is in my wife's family, has been for over 100 years. And I have my camper, my RV camper, in a covered mini storage about 50 miles from the property, so I don't have to drag this thing through all this traffic. And I know that if I'm out of town and the wife and my grown sons are going to head up there, I know, first of all, depending on where I'm at, but I'm going to navigate to that mini storage. I'm going to see if my camper's there first. And if my camper's gone, I know that they're probably at the property and not at the house. And if I get up there and the camper's not there, then I know to work my way down one of those 2 routes that we've chosen and look for them along the way. So it's remember that it's a marathon and not a sprint, because your ability to move in the days after an event, and I'm going to use hurricanes as an example, they're hindered. You're not going to go as far on a tank of gas because you're going to sit in traffic for hours and hours, and you're going to idle more fuel than you're going to burn driving. So find those rural routes, those rural 2-lane roads, get on those and pick your way around those big giant traffic jam parking lots. Maximize every drop of fuel you can, but carry your spare fuel with you, carry your food with you, carry your water with you, because as folks radiate out away from the epicenter of an event, and this is on my channel, you'll see a video on there about the zombie apocalypse and my thoughts on that. And I believe that the zombie apocalypse, is no more than refugees. And as they radiate out away from an event, they are going to strip every store, gas station, and convenience store, grocery store, whatever. It's going to be picked clean, picked bare by the time you get there. So you either have it with you, or you're going to become an event-related casualty.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that living in Florida, you'll see, something's heading this way, from the Caribbean or whatever, and you walk into a store and all the food and water is gone. People, whenever those kind of disasters are happening, people grab stuff. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just think that the first thing that people need to do is to actually realize and prepare themselves mentally that could happen, because a lot of people haven't even accept the fact that something could happen. So that's why they're not prepared. I mean, take for instance, if you have a weapon, how come you have a weapon in your house? Well, because I'm prepared to respond to some type of intruder. But some people will tell you, well, that's what the police is there for. Well, we all know that the police is going to take them 10 minutes to show up to your house, but people don't want to listen to that. So people need to, first thing they got to do is actually realize that they have some type of threat, and that could happen, and then they could get prepared. If you don't realize that something could happen, then, and that's why people don't prepare, because they're living in this war that tells you that the government is going to take care of you, and it's not going to happen. And we just saw that in Georgia, where what was it, like 2 months ago, or not even a month ago, we had a bunch of cars in the middle of the road, and the Georgia state could not provide for those people, and they had to come out on the media and even apologize to the people in the state. But in a way, yeah, they pay taxes and all that, but what about the people? Why they didn't prepare? Why? Because they expect the government, and that's pretty much the American way, expecting people to do something for you. So don't expect anybody to do anything for you.
Yeah, and that's even, organizations that respond to disasters like FEMA or the Red Cross, or their partner agencies, they only are going to help you with your immediate needs, like food, water, shelter, find you with medical stuff. But you should, if you already have that stuff, then you're good. You're that much ahead of the power curve. What if nobody's there? What if it's a big disaster and no one can help you?
Even though they're going to help you, you say they're going to help you. You say, well, those guys are going to help you. Yeah, you're right. You're right. In a way, they are going to help you. But it's going to take them, and Ted could probably talk about this, how long it took them to provide some type of response down there when you guys faced that hurricane. I mean, it's going to take a couple of weeks. There's people right now that are not even prepared to spend 3 days inside the house because they don't have anything. 3 days. So people need to don't call you, like you said, you don't have to be like a hardcore prepper. Like, I don't have 6 years of food. I would love to, but I don't, because I don't have the money for it. But have at least a month of water. That's it. So you could face that initial push, which is going to be the hardest push.
Yeah, And yeah, we'll Ted, if you can talk, I'm going to mention one thing, but if you could talk about a little bit about your experience with Hurricane Katrina, the aftermath of that. But for big disasters like that, it's recommended to have, if you're going to bug out, you're going to need to have 72 hours to of food and water. If you're heading out somewhere. But if you're going to be bugging in, then you're going to need at least 2 weeks of or a month. It would be even better. Especially if people are coming over and hunkering down with you or whatever. But you need especially 2 weeks at minimum of food and water and other supplies. The basics. But what was I going to say? Oh. Only 12% statistically of Americans are prepared for a disaster.
You know what you call the rest of them? Victims.
Exactly. Yeah. But so if you want to talk about what you saw, you could go ahead, Jared.
No, I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what did Katrina look like? The aftermath of that.
It was eye-opening, to say the least. We saw certainly the best in folks come out, but we absolutely saw the worst in folks come out. Now the looters were out in force, and a lot of the folks that didn't evacuate, they stayed behind just for that reason. In certain areas of New Orleans, especially, there was transportation provided for everybody. The buses were running for free. They were getting you to the evac points, and some folks just had to take advantage of that. Now, I got on the ground in New Orleans East, which was just to the west of Ground Zero, before it stopped raining. I was in there we took a team in to do some work, and we, ironically, the whole little parish down there we were working in, St. Bernard Parish, was locked down. I mean they had the police, fire department, National Guard had it locked down and cordoned off, and there's really only 2 ways in and out of there. And it's funny, by the time we got on the ground, those houses had already been looted. They'd already been kicked in. The doors had already been kicked on most of those houses in some of these neighborhoods. And the folks that would have stayed behind in there, now it was a mandatory evacuation that part when they saw the storm going, so they went door to door and made sure everybody was out. But the folks that would have stayed behind would have certainly died in place, because we had a storm surge come through there, and some estimates were as much as 27 feet. And I did manage to take hundreds and hundreds of pictures while I was down there working. And this storm surge came up so fast, came and left so fast, that vehicles didn't have time to fill up with water. They simply floated up on top of the roofs, got deposited there, and then the water went back down. And they're floated. They were intact inside. One particular thing that comes to mind is these folks had a dog that they left chained in the backyard on a fairly long chain, probably about a 15, 20-foot chain, but he was still chained in the backyard to a post. And that storm surge came in and left so fast that dog didn't drown. He was still alive after the event. And so that's just to kind of give you that tsunami mentality there of a storm surge and how fast it comes in on you. But these folks weren't prepared. The folks in New Orleans weren't prepared for this event. They weren't prepared for something like that, even though they had 2 weeks warning that this thing was coming in. They didn't prep for it. They didn't plan for it. And as a result, 1,700 people lost their lives in New Orleans from that event. And the events right after, and I don't think it was the acute event. I don't think it's the actually storm-related casualties, but it is the event after. The lack of water, the lack of food, heat casualties, living in unsanitary conditions. Now I don't know about you folks, but in 2 weeks' time, I could probably walk to Georgia, in a couple of weeks. So you have to make a decision when one of these events come in. You've survived the acute event, but how are you going to manage yourself and your family in the days after, when that acute event becomes chronic, when it becomes a duration event of over 4, 5, 6 weeks? To my mind, at some point, you're going to be displaced. You're going to have to bug out. Resources are going to become limited. You keep that last 72 hours of food and water for your family back, And when you get down to that point, that's your indication. Look, I've got 72 hours of food left, and I'm going to eat this on the road. I'm not going to eat this here in my house and wait for a helicopter to come by and drop me a package of food out of the sky. And so, said you can be prepared or you can be a victim, and really the choice is up to you. Um, as for me and my family and me and my friends, well, we're not going to be a victim because a victim's a mindset. It's not an occurrence. It's a mindset. When you choose to be a victim, you're going to be a victim every time. Don't count on the generosity of your neighbors and the generosity of the government, the generosity of the state, because like we saw after the Katrina, that response can be very slow sometimes. And if it's a weather event or a earthquake or a fire or something like that, they may be cut off from reaching you. And at the end of the day, you're on your own. You have nobody to count on but you. Okay, I'm off the soapbox. Sorry.
Well,
I
don't know about you, Ted, but I'm counting with the federal government to provide for me and give me a cell phone.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
So-
like a couple things that come to my mind, and we'll go to back to Jarhead to get his opinion too, and we talk a little bit about what we should do to provide for home defense and things like that. If you are in the aftermath of something like that, and how to protect yourself from looters or whatnot. But a couple of things is that's why I had that video that I uploaded on the Amfaw channel about a month ago about how I never let my gas tank get below half. In fact, it was at half today, and I filled it up just because to me that's running low. That's running too close to empty, because if you have half a tank of gas and something, whatever, fill in the blank happens, you can get out of town, and it's not sort of like one of the earth is swallowing up everything, and you're at the end of being swallowed up, and you're getting out of town. It's nothing like that. It's just something's happened, that the resources are being consumed in your area. It's without rule of law in some areas. You just kind of want to be safe and go ahead and leave for a little while, a couple of weeks or whatever, until things settle down and power's back up, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything, any zombies or anything, but it's good to have prepared with extra fuel. And the other thing I was going to talk about is it's also recommended to have 2 different meetup plates, like you were saying. Good to have multiple meetup places. If it's a localized disaster, it's good to have a meetup place outside of your neighborhood. And if it is a more large scale, it's good to have a meetup place outside of your city limits.
My youngest son lives 150 miles from me, and he and I have a plan in place where it doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come find my child. I mean, it's just that's what parents do. But in the event that he has to leave his location, he has instructions to, because he drinks soda, and they have those cement steps on their house that goes up that's kind of hollow underneath, like a mobile home kind of step. And he has instructions, and he knows this, that he's going to put me a note inside a soda bottle underneath those steps. So when I get there, I'm going to find him. He's going to tell me where he went. And then if I get to that location, he's not there, I will find a note inside a soda bottle, underneath the house or underneath the steps, someplace where people will look at it and say, oh, it's just garbage, and not give it a second thought. I'm going to check every one of those, because that's it. And that's our communication. Now, we understand that there's going to be these 150 miles. On my best day, I'm going to do about 25, 30 miles. So I'm looking at 5-6 days to get to my son. And that's with a moderate-sized pack. My bug-out bag weighs 35 pounds, and it's got food and water in it for 3 days, and it's pretty sparse. 35 pounds, folks don't understand how heavy a 35-pound pack is in the heat of the summer, and when water's at a premium. Most of the weight in your pack is going to be water, because you want to have about a gallon of water per day, or a means to purify about a gallon of water per day, because that's what you're going to burn. Calories aside, water's your lifeblood, and a 35-pound pack will whoop your tail. And back in my younger days, when I was a young infantryman, our packs weighed anywhere between 45 and 60, depending on the creep we were on, and a 45 to 60 pound pack will whoop a fully combat conditioned troop. I mean, it'll put the smoke on you after 5, 6, 8 clicks. And so a 35-pound pack today for an old fat man, in South Louisiana who gotten used to the air conditioning, is going to be it's going to whoop my tail. So when you plan your move, remember that ounces is pounds and pounds is pain. So water, food, water, fire, shelter, food in that order, and you can get by a few days. I could probably stand to lose a few pounds. So I'm not too concerned about consuming 5,000 calories a day to replace what's going on there. I've got about 1,000 calories per person planned out, and I know that's not enough to keep you flourishing, but it will sustain you, and sustainment's really all we're looking for to get out of harm's way. So again, got back on my soapbox. Sorry.
Well, Jarhead 6, did you have anything to add about either home defense or what you would recommend as a good weight for rucking?
Yeah, no, I concur with Chad 100% on the time. When it comes to bugging out in your pack and all that stuff, a lot of things that we think are things that we need are not really things that we need, and like you may not need so much extra clothes. You may just need a couple of underwears, a couple of socks, and things like that. Maybe one set of extra clothes. You don't need to bring 6 different sets. Things like magazines and books. It's nice to have a book, but you may not need it. And those are items that it's nice to have, but they're not really a need. So unless the book is some type of instructions or something like that, so you need, yeah. But you have to minimize your pack. 35 pounds, just like Ted said. You spend a few days with that pack on, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it. So.
Now, understanding that your pack is going to get lighter as you go along, because as you start digging into that pack and burning up those consumables, and primarily your food is going to be your main consumables on there, you're going to see, and this is funny to watch, because whenever we would deploy somewhere, or one in particular I remember was we went down to Panama. And, we had these big 65, well, they're probably 55, 60-pound rucksacks when we got down there. And time we got back, those rucksacks weighed about 30 pounds because we realized the stuff that we weren't using and what you don't use, you get rid of. Prime example was, and Chris, I'm going to call you out here, Chris Simmons. Just watch his bag out bag video, and Chris is just getting into this. And I'm not clowning on you, Chris. I don't want you to think that. But Chris has got multiple redundancies in his bag. And where I believe that redundancy is absolutely necessary in anything you do. It's important to have a plan, and it's important to have a backup plan, a contingency. And it's important to have a main route, and it's important to have an alternate route. And it's important to have your primary medical kit, and it's the smaller secondary medical kit. I mean, those things are important. But when you take a quality material, you can kind of disregard some of the redundancies. Now, my machete, for example, I have a big blade. Now, I don't, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing, I don't know if I'm going to carry that, but on the back side of it, it has a serrated saw teeth on there for cutting tree branches. Now, I would use that before I would carry a saw and a machete. I would carry that multi-purpose tool right there because it's exactly the same weight as a regular machete. I'm not going to carry a hammer in my bug-out bag because it's dead weight. There's too many stones and rocks and fence posts and stuff like that you can use as a pounding tool, batoning tool. But yeah, the redundancy is great. So if you can reduce the amount of weight in your bag to make that thing streamlined and high speed, low drag, we used to say. You can get it high speed, low drag, you're going to be good to go, and you're going to stay in the fight a little bit longer, and you're not going to become a casualty of your own gear. And when you start humping heavy gear in high humidity and high heat, it's just a matter of time before you're a heat casualty, and nobody's going to spare the water on it.
Yeah. And speaking of water, it is recommended to have, sometimes we don't necessarily know, well, how much food and how much water. For water, it's recommended in your preparedness kit if you're either bugging out or bugging in, to have 1 gallon per person per day.
That's what
So
we plan. Yep.
keep that in mind as well. Yeah, that's what's recommended by FEMA, the Red Cross, and other disaster preparedness
When the storm blows in, we
organizations.
have a water bob, and you can get these at Academy and I think sometimes even the Home Depot. And it's just essentially a big giant bag that goes into your bathtub. You can put it up to your spout, turn the water on, and fill it up. And it has a little hand pump that comes with it. So we have a two bedroom, 2 bath house. So I'm going to fill both those tubs up. And they say, well, wait a minute, where are you going to take a shower? Well, first of all, I'd rather have drinking water than shower water because you can always heat up non-potable water to clean up with. And
baby wipe.
Yeah, you certainly do that. But second thing people forget is they're going to continue to let their family go in there and use that toilet. And what happens when you can't flush a toilet is it becomes this big, festering, fly-encrusted, gross sickness 1 foot from your water supply. So understand that even though you can flush your toilet, you can put water in the back of your toilet to flush it. When those pipes between your house and that transfer station, that lift station, become full, nothing's going to move in there. Now you're going to have raw sewage sitting in your house. So get some wag bags, get some 5-gallon buckets, let your family do their business in that, and take that out away from the house and actually bury it. Put it, dig a hole and dump it in it like an outhouse would be, and then cover it back up. And be careful where you do that. I saw Chris had also said that he said that they have a hand pump on their property, which is awesome. But I'm in the work I do. Very many times we'll see contaminated wells, and once, for example, a flood event overtops the opening to a water well, now that flood water has contaminated a potential drinking source. And you also have a migration from chemicals. If you live near or downhill from a chemical facility and they have a leak, well, guess what's in your water now? So even well water needs to be treated and filtered and treated just like it's contaminated. So only trust what you know to be safe. And if you can capture your water before the event, then you're going to be good to go until that event, for the duration of that event anyway, if it's short term. If it's long term, you better have a way to filter, store, and purify water in place.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good idea to have. I don't think I have a 10-gallon bucket. Yeah, that's something I haven't really thought about. I'm sure I would make do, but that would be a much easier way to do it. To just just take a little bag and
man,
do your
all I
business.
got.
Yeah, Jayhawk's asking.
All I gotta say is that
a wag bag is.
Yeah.
A wag bag, folks, and you can order these things online, and they're not cheap, and you can actually find them in the camping section of some of these camping stores. And it is a bag that is small. Some of them even are just about the size of what you'd find a large newspaper in. And they are a bag that contains a chemical inside there that will solidify human waste into a gel. And it can be treated that way. And you can roll that thing up, clip it, and you can actually go out and store those bags on your property someplace, and you don't have this grossness going on there every time.
Yeah, and they do sell like a plastic toilet that you could put them inside.
That's right.
So you have like a little plastic toilet, you can sit on it. So.
Very true.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the. I mean, I thought about it, but I haven't actively prepared for it. I guess if that makes sense.
Well, and then even when you're handling that, you don't want to use your stored drinking water to wash your hands after. So that's where Purell comes in. You can sanitize your hands with a bottle of Purell afterwards, not have to worry about cross-contamination of your food. And in a pinch, that little bottle of gelled alcohol will serve as a fuel source for a sterno stove. So, 2 birds with 1 stone again.
Yeah, if you drain it through a cotton bandana, I know that can help it as well.
I've got a little video.
One thing that
about
one thing that I would say too. Go ahead, Tim.
No, brother, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I would say too, if in the case, what I like about those bags is that you could have in, I wouldn't say inside your house in your living room, but you could designate even your bathroom to go and take care of business there. When you dig a hole and you do your whole most likely you're gonna have to do it, not so much away from the house, but not also too close. So it's going to be a pretty good distance that you're going to have to walk to. And that type of situation, and I know this from experience because this is what we did during the war in 2003 in Iraq. You're going to have to bring security. So it's not like you're going to go up there and poop. You're going to have to go out there, and somebody's going to have to go with you to maintain security while you're taking care of business. Because the least that you want to find yourself in the situation when you're using the bathroom, the hole, whatever you built out there, and some guy attack you. So yeah, and I'm telling you this from experience in Iraq, we had to go and take care of business. There were no bathrooms, so it was pretty much pick a bush in the desert, and we picked that bush and we went out there, and one guy will push maybe 15 meters in front of you, and he would take a knee and provide security for you. So security is critical.
What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, one thing that I think maybe I'll do a video of this for this weekend. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do a video of my kid or just overlooked items or just or tips or whatever for the Amfaw upload this weekend. But one thing I think is one of the more overlooked items in bug out bag, survival kits, whatever, getting out of town and bringing your stuff with you is extra cash. I think that a lot of people just think, oh well, if you're in a survival situation, why do you need extra cash? Or if you're in a zombie apocalypse, you don't need extra cash because everyone's zombies. But and usually, what's going to happen is, the more likely event is you're in a fire, or some sort of disaster, tornado, or bad weather, or ice storm, or power outages of some sort. Well, you're going to need your extra cash. You might be bugging out for a long distance.
What we see a lot here on the coast, and bearing in mind that 52% of Americans live in coastal areas, especially on the Gulf Coast, we're within arm's reach of a petrochemical refinery all along through here, and those have been, when they have a drill or an incident at one of these refineries, just out of good sense, they evacuate the surrounding area. So you may be away from your house for 2 or 3 days because of some kind of a breach of a chemical facility nearby you, and you may have to go to a hotel. So it pays to have cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might have your stuff somewhere in your house, and they're like, "Oh, you're not going back." Like, but I left my stuff at home. They're like, "Well, it's your stuff. If you go back and get it, you're not going to be safe if you try to get that."
I think what we're trying to do is I think the point is to try to have as many things and cover different ways that something could go wrong, but it's always something going to go wrong. I mean, people have to get in the mindset. If I would say something, is get in the mindset that when something goes wrong, they're gonna figure out a way to survive. That's the mindset that I try to put myself, my family, because there's always gonna be something. You may need extra cash, but you may need extra bullets. You may need this, and it's always gonna be something that you're gonna need. And I think we have to get in that mindset. Not saying that try to cover your six as much as you can. Definitely prepare. Bring extra cash, bring weapons, bring ammo, but always something's gonna go wrong, and the key is to readjust. Readjust, call for fire, readjust your point of aim, and continue pushing forward. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah, my ammo loadout's going to be very minimal in the U.S. Now it depends on the situation, but if I'm going to bug out because of a storm or a fire or even a refinery incident, a hazardous materials release, I'm going to have probably 2 mags for the Glock in a pouch and then 1 in the Glock, and that's it. I'm going to have that defensive weapon, and the AR-15s, the ACR, whatever the flavor of my day is, because I have my temporary obsessions, but those are probably going to stay behind. And I know a lot of you guys are cringing right now, going, "Man, that's crazy. Why would you leave that stuff behind for looters?" Well, I'm not leaving them behind for looters. Those things are going to be tucked away nicely and neatly and cleanly in an undisclosed location, which I'm never going to tell you guys about.
I bet you'll be different when the Russians are coming, Ted.
Well, if I look up and see parachutes in the sky, you're absolutely right. And so, which one of those am I going to take? Well, I'm going to take my AR-15, my trusty old AR-15. I'm going to put that ACOG on it, and I'm going to leave the ACR behind. And even though it's probably a more sexier gun, at the end of the day, I know that AR-15 is going to be, there are going to be parts available for that in different sources where I won't be able to have that with the ACR. So, not just a hat rack, my friend.
Here's a really random question. If there is a Red Dawn situation, this is fun stuff to talk about. Sort of like winning the lotto. What ifs?
Well, we joke, but with all that stuff going on there in Russia, let's not discount that Vladimir Putin would absolutely make us defend on our own doorstep if it come down to it. Before we fought on his soil, he'd bring it to us. I guarantee you that.
True. So if you see parachutes in the air, and this kind of goes with laws of war and ROE and stuff like that. I know what we're allowed to do, but if you see parachutes in the air, what would you do? What would you do to those descending things? And
first,
you got all your guns because you're at home.
Change my pants. First, change my pants.
Yeah, I'm with Ted on that one. First, change my pants. Then remind myself that even though I'm retired, I'm still a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, and do what we do best. That's just what we do. Take care of business.
Yeah. Would you scream Wolverines as you're shooting them?
I would, and I would loft my AR-15 high above my head and arch my head to the side like this.
Wolverine.
I will be making YouTube videos.
No, in all seriousness, the first thing I would try to do is get my family to the green zone. I'd get my family to the, because there's going to be pockets that are controlled by friendly forces, and that's where I would try to move my family first. Now, whether I stayed with them or not, it remains to be seen. But my primary mission is to get my family out of harm's way, and if I had to do that by force, I would absolutely do that. But while I'm moving the family from point A to point B, I'm going to move them in that coyote doctrine mentality that I have, that I'm going to see and not be seen, and that I'm going to move quickly, quietly, and deliberately, and we're going to keep our head down, and we're going to, and put on a swivel, and we're going to get out of the AO. We're going to. I'm watching some of the chat here, and it's got me laughing.
So would you stay away from Alaska? Because Sarah Palin says you can see Russia from Alaska.
Yeah, I would
that'd
stay
probably
out of
be
Alaska.
something you need to.
I would stay out of Alaska, and honestly, I'd stay out of the Midwest because. Yeah, I mean, there are holes in the ground every 15 feet in the Midwest, and they're going to be prime targets, and I don't want to be part of that.
I understand.
I would stay out of the Mississippi River Delta where I'm at now. I think central Mississippi, northern Alabama, someplace like that maybe, or
somewhere safe like North Carolina.
Someplace safe like North Carolina. That's right, where I know that they have a sentinel on duty right now, guarding the Republic.
Well, plus Jarhead 6 is in North Carolina, so things are good here.
Exactly.
I think
what is some of
it? Cotton 6.8 asked a question: do you think military bases would be green zones or targets? I think initially, initially they would be targets. They would be targets for conventional weaponry, but I think that after that initial strike, they would be a green zone because we're going to establish our own FOBs within our own dirt. So.
Well, people don't really understand what a lot of people don't think that a military base is like, you go through all these entry control points and then a military base. In Afghanistan, a military base may be a house. I come inside your house, I tell you to leave, I put an antenna up with a little computer, and that is a patrol base, and that's it. So definitely, I think will be a strike zone. And if you see the guys in 2003 would bomb all the bases in Iraq, and in 2004, one of the things that it was kind of interesting was that as you're driving through the highways in Iraq, you will see airplanes parked on the streets. And the reason why is because, the Iraqis took the planes out of the base and they put them on the streets so the planes would have been destroyed. So it was kind of funny just, driving by and you see a guy doing tomatoes or whatever on his land, and then he has an airplane, a combat airplane right behind him, in the middle of the street. But yeah, definitely the base will be a target.
Yeah, I would 100% agree that there's going to be, whoever it is that is powerful enough to be a threat, military threat to America. They're going to prioritize the different military installations and other targets, and they're going to, all the targets might not be on military installations, but a lot of the targets are going to be, different facilities on the military installation and different things as well.
Back in the Cold War days, when I was a young paratrooper, young Screaming Eagle, this is exactly the type of event that we were trained for. Now, we know that every population center would be targeted because they would want, first of all, to eliminate communication. When you control the communication of what gets out to the general public, you control the battlefield, essentially. What's the old saying? Own the night, own the battlefield. So that's so those would, they're going to knock out all these communication points first. You couldn't give me enough money to go to an urban population center because in 1939, when Hitler, was doing his thing over there in Germany and in Europe in general, they would round the Jews up into neighborhoods and simply throw a fence up around it, and it became an ad hoc prison. And they had one or two guys in there that was the overcapos, the elected leader or the appointed leader of that ghetto, and they would be responsible for saying, who was going to get on the trains next. And so I saw a television program. That's why it pokes out on my brain right now. This last week, where out of like 400 people, 500 people in this one ghetto, there were only like 17 survivors at the end of the war, and they didn't know if the guy that was in charge of them was a hero or a villain, because he sent hundreds and hundreds of them to their death on the train cars, but because he was diplomatic about it, those 17 survived, attribute their survivability directly to him. So let's just hope I never have to be put into that position.
Jaycock is talking about if we're going to send troops down to help. We cannot afford to send troops down to help, and I think he's just being funny about it. But and that's why. And are we going to talk about this? I don't even know if we want to get into this.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Russia is taking advantage of that. They know we are in Afghanistan. They know we cannot go to war. They know that the American people will not support another war. And to tell you the truth, the best thing that will ever happen to us is not to go to war, because for the last 10 years, we've been training for desert operations. We're going to go and fight the Russians. When it was a guy in CNN pretty much making fun of the president when he was saying, well, the Congress is not here. We got 5 inches of snow, when in Russia it's 85 inches of snow. Those guys know how to fight. And with our troops in Afghanistan now well trained, we will not be able to go and fight over there. I mean, we can, and we're going to do our best, but it's going to cost us a lot. We're going to have a lot of casualties, and a lot of people are going to die over this one. And for what? Russia wants to take over.
I think we'll end up committing troops depending on what Putin does, and I'm going to tell you why. The Ukrainian people are moving toward a democratic society. And we have gone to numerous incursions and wars for that very thing. That's just what we do. We're going to further that. We were in Vietnam for that very reason. We were in Korea for that very reason. And this is going to be no exception. And if Putin accelerates a display of force over there and they move to bloodshed, I promise you, as I'm sitting here today, make no mistake about it, America will commit troops over there.
It would, but it's going to cost us.
It's going to be very costly, and it's lose-lose. We will gain nothing from it but bloodshed and more crosses in Arlington. But
And
at
it's
the end
going to
of the
cost
day,
us more than what it costs us in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's going to cost us way more than what it costs
yeah,
in Iraq and
make no
Afghanistan.
mistake about it. These aren't insurgents. These are hardened, trained troops,
Yep.
and Vladimir Putin has spent his life as a warrior. He is a warrior at heart. He's a warrior through and through, and he goes back to the Cold War days when America was his enemy, and I believe he still has that taste in his mouth. And he's probably been training for this day his entire life, and he's not going to be back down, and he's not going to be pushed around. And for the lack of a better term, he's all but called our president a pussy. And
Yeah.
we don't have any recourse for that. Now, it's okay for us to go beat up on these people that's 200 years behind us technology-wise, but this is going to be a different fight here, and it's not a level that we've been. We're not used to this. Fighting those folks over the desert's a different animal than fighting troops that's got the same or better equivalent gear, body armor, night vision, attack helicopters. I mean, it's going to be blow for blow. That's not. Yeah. This is nothing we want. Plus, we've also got the Chinese factor behind that. China is right there, communist, and they're not going to align with us, even though we're their largest customer. Economic-wise, their geopolitical beliefs align with Russia's more so than ours do. So they're going to stand behind Russia, and so it's going to be us and the allies against everything over on the eastern side of the globe, and it'll get bad. It'll get quick, and it'll get bad in a hurry if this thing escalates. So don't underestimate the seriousness of this. Now is not the time to be watching Honey Boo Boo on TV. Now's the time to keep your eyes and your nose, into this laptop you're looking at and on television right there, and stay abreast of all this, because you're going to watch this thing unfold in front of your very eyes here over the next few days.
I definitely think, me personally, I think that the war is not an answer, and I think it's going to cost us way too much, and this is dangerous. I mean, you got Russia backing up by other countries. I mean, this could be World War III over here. People in America, they're not even paying attention to this. People are way too busy with Facebook and Justin Bieber and his right to privacy. But this could be a World War III, because they are gaining control of a section of that country that would allow them to have easy access to the Western, as they could travel through the Black Sea or whatever sea they have. So this land is a strategy point that they would take control of this to prepare. From there they could attack us. I don't know if you guys seen that, but that's one of the issues. And like Ted said,
they want the Crimean Peninsula because it is that choke point between the open water and the Black Sea, where they're keeping their navies housed right there in that little inland ocean there. So they they want control of the Crimean Peninsula, because their navy is crippled if they don't have control of that. If that goes Western Democratic, then a country essentially like the U.S. or the NATO allies can essentially just put the squeeze in them. We can blockade that right there to Crimean Peninsula, and their navy wouldn't be able to get in or out, and they know that. So that's a very strategic place for them to get. I don't know. I'm getting off topic. Sorry.
I mean, the fact is that the military are not like Afghanistan. They're not like Iraq. These guys are soldiers. If we go there and invade that terrain that we have not trained on, our military is not ready to invade a terrain that has 85 inches of snow. That terrain is going to kill our boys. We're lowering our military. We're not trained for that. For the last 10 years, we've been training for operations in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We have our troops in Afghanistan. We're just not ready. They send our troops out there. I mean, by no means I'm saying that we not. Let me say, it's not that we're not ready. We are not at our best tip to deal with this situation. So our boys are going to go there. Our boys are going to kick butt and fight, but it's going to cost us. First of all, it's going to put the country more in debt, because we are what, 17 trillion, whatever. Multiply that by 3. And second of all, it's going to cost American life. And you know what? This is the bottom fact. 2004, Fallujah was one of the biggest war in Iraq. One of the biggest ones. I know that because I was there. The second one was the first one. I think it was Nasiriyah in 2003. It's one of the biggest wars in Iraq. Right now, Iraq lost Fallujah to the insurgents. So 10 years later, we lost Fallujah, even though we have many Americans' lives that die there. So you know what? It's going to be the same thing. We're going to go up there. We're going to sustain 10,000 American troops dead. And then 6 years from now, we're going to go back to step one. And meanwhile, the only people who are going to suffer is the American troops' families and the troops. And that's my take on it. And I say that because I've been in combat more than 4 times. And I've been in firefights and I've been in combat situations. That's why I say that. Because everybody else is worried about Justin Bieber. You know? Because he has the right to privacy, by the way. So I don't know. I don't think we are ready. I don't think we are ready to go and attack Russia. And we put ourselves in this situation with Syria. You know?
Well, here's something.
The bottom line is the Russian president doesn't care. He told America to F off. That's what he did. He said, "Go away from me. I'm going to do whatever I want to."
Meanwhile, there's a Russian warship sitting in Havana Harbor right now.
Yep.
That's 300.
You know what we could do, Ted? The best thing that we could do right now is take this seriously and back away, be smart about it, and start preparing for this, guys, because 6-7 years from now, we're going to find ourselves in this situation again. And that's when we're going to take care of business. I'm not saying that we surrender. I'm not saying we withdraw. It's just called a delay attack. We're going to back away. We're going to recap. We're going to get reinforced, and we see you in 2 years, buddy. And let's take care of business. That's what I think we should do.
Well, we got they have an ally right here on our continent in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez. They have the Castro regime in Cuba right here at our doorstep. So, and there's an unconfirmed rumor that there are Chinese and Russian warships steaming toward the Caribbean as we speak. That's unconfirmed, and that very well may be, that may be just so much internet garbage. All right, time's going to prove that out or not, but I see a day.
And I like to say,
this escalates that we'll defend on our own doorstep, and that's not something we're prepared to do.
I like to say, Ted, that you know what, and by no means, I know a lot of guys say, well, Iraq, I walk the streets of Iraq. I walk the streets of Afghanistan. I know what it is for an old person to come down and shake my hand and tell me thank you. We saw the Taliban killing, just like destroying entire villages. Like, I mean, American people don't even have the mind to sustain this. Like going to a village, and you guys know this, and just murdering, 100 people just like on the street, just walking down and killing people. We know those things. But, and I don't even know where I was going with this, mostly the TVI. But what I was trying to say, if we're going to talk about the people, the people this, we need to help the people. Look, you just mentioned Cuba. Fidel Castro been there for 59 years. So are we being hypocrites? You know what I'm saying? Are we being hypocrites? Because Fidel Castro took over in 1959. The Cuban people are dying. They don't have food. They're living in totally poor. And what have we done to it? Nothing. Why? Because there's no resources. There is nothing to get out of Cuba. But up there, we may get something out of there, so we're going to go and fight. So again, you know what? We're going to go up there to gain our resources. Meanwhile, the American people, not American people, the American soldiers and the patriots like yourself, guys that serve in the service, are going to suffer. Everybody else is going to be watching Justin Bieber. So you know what? Call me disgruntled, but I'm tired of it. So I would say war is now the answer. I don't want to see my brothers getting killed for no reason.
And so they back in the 80s, they estimated an 80% casualty rate for a first strike on our soil. 80%. Now I think that number is probably going to be higher because we've gotten, for a better term, fat and lazy as a society. We've kind of got used to having the easy life. We've used technology to make our lives easier. Back in the day, and I'm going to call Jayhawk out for his age here, but back in the day when me and Jayhawk got our first cars, air conditioning was an option. They didn't come standard. You had to order AC in your car in those days. And And now, if you don't want AC in your car, you can't get a car probably without AC. You know, you don't think they make them. You know,
You mind a bomb hitting this country? People flipped out over YouTube and Google Plus. The
well, just
American people will be like
remember
running
the
all
nation
over the
was
place.
crippled about a year ago when those guys set off the bomb at the Boston Marathon. Small scale, little homemade bomb right there, and it locked the country down essentially for the better part of that afternoon. Everybody was frozen in place. When 9/11 happened, aircraft stopped flying. So if we were to have an event like that now, and you're away from home, boys and girls, and 4, 5, 600 miles away from your comfort zone, what are you going to do? How are you going to get home? That possibility is very real now. It's as real today as it was in '01. How are you going to get home?
Yeah, and that brings us back to preparedness. um,
Oh, that was the whole point of this.
See, exactly. You guys follow that. Yeah, I let you all talk about things that I don't want to talk about. Being in active duty, I don't want to say things that I might know or might not know, or take stands that are against, whatever.
Chief.
Exactly. Yeah, Commander Chief. Blah blah blah. But well, I think this is a good little chat. We had some good conversations and such.
The hour up too.
And we're coming up on the hour. Do y'all have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Get your All My Friends Are Warrior t-shirt. Contact the Alabama Owens. And you want to pan down there and show them the two choices there? Because I see you're both wearing both different ones.
I got mine on.
You still not wearing yours there, Ted?
No, I'm actually wearing... yeah.
Friends are Warriors.
Yep, so we have the black ones, and they just have the little Amfaw logo on the front. And on the back it says All My Friends Are Warriors, and the one my friend Jarhead 6 is wearing there actually has a picture of a claymore that says Front Toward Enemy, which means, you're not going to do any fighting if you're running away. So, and there are things in this world that are worth fighting for, and one of those things are our Second Amendment rights. I want to put a word out to all my friends in Connecticut. Stay in the fight, stay strong, and do the right thing, and we're supporting you. And if I have to pick up my ruck and head to Connecticut, I certainly will do that.
Right, Jarhead, did you have any any closing thoughts or anything else coming up?
No, I mean, I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate you guys watching. That's
awesome. Right, and as you all know, for me, I just announced my 5,000 subscriber giveaway, which then of course I had to hit 6,000 right the same day I was uploading it because it kind of threw off video I'd already made. But y'all be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out jayhawkusmcr.com. They're the ones who sponsored it, and I'm always wearing his bracelet. Out of uniform, of course. Yeah, be sure to check out my most recent video on that Budget Bug Out is the name of my YouTube channel. It should be in the description box too. All right, guys. If there's nothing else, appreciate your watching. Oh, yes, sir.
Check out the Alabama Owens. Our misplaced brother is down in West Palm this week, sticking his toes in the sand on this cold weather day. We miss you there, Alabama. Sorry.
Hang around with the Cubans down there.
Yeah, he's trying to get an eye on those vessels, but
he's probably telling people he knows Jarhead 6.
If anybody wants one of those T-shirts, contact the Alabama Owens. He has a PayPal account, and he will hit me up with your address, and we'll ship it out to you quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah, and everyone who's on the panel, their link is in the description box below as well. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one, and all my friends are warriors. Take care.